Hello, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about insulin pump myths, what you need to know. I think that if you don't use an insulin pump or you don't know anybody that uses an insulin pump, you probably don't know much about it. I certainly did not have any idea what an insulin pump was until I got LADA diabetes at age 30. Latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, and it was a progressive condition. And today I use an insulin pump, which helps me immensely. So I wanted to talk about insulin pump myths. Myth number one, insulin pumps are implanted medical devices. This is not true at all. I thought they would be, right? Like a pacemaker or something like that, but no. The truth is that insulin pumps are external devices that you wear on your body. They're not a surgically implanted device. This is my insulin pump. I usually wear it on my belt or in my pocket. It's a Medtronic MiniMed 780G insulin pump, a tubed pump, which is a common type of insulin pump. There's also pumps called patch pumps that don't have any tubing that adhere directly to your body. This is a picture of the Omnipod insulin pump. So they're external devices, not implantable at all. Myth number two, insulin pumps are only for people who need a lot of insulin. The truth is that insulin pumps can be beneficial for people who use any amount of insulin, even very small doses. In fact, this is really one of the big advantages of using an insulin pump for myself and for anybody who doesn't require a whole lot of insulin, because it's hard to dose insulin. So it's hard to get the right amount of insulin. Insulin pumps don't require much insulin requirement per day. Like if you, to use an insulin pump, you only need to require a minimum of either 8 units or 5 units, depending on the type of insulin pump. So that's all day long. That's the minimum amount. Now I use right now about 30 units per day. When I was using about 20 units per day, so it changes over time. It also changes day to day. Every day is different. Some people use much more, like 200 units per day. The insulin dosage is very individualized, the requirements of your particular body. So, but there's nothing like, oh, you need an insulin pump because you need a lot of insulin. That has nothing to do with whether you would benefit from an insulin pump. Insulin pumps offer much more precision when it comes to dosing. So on the right here, you can see my insulin pump, and it's doing an automatic correction, an auto correction. It's giving me 0.775 units, so that's less than 1 unit, and that will get my blood sugar into an ideal range. And the alternative to using an insulin pump for administering insulin is either an insulin pen or an insulin syringe. I have a picture here on the left here of the Junior Quick Pen for insulin, and this one allows you to dose a half unit of insulin, but that's the lowest, smallest dosage amount that you can dose with that insulin pen, whereas the insulin pump can do 1/10 of a unit, so very tiny amounts of insulin. And then there's also a picture of an insulin syringe, and you can see that like it's 5 units is not very much, but for me personally, 5 units is often more than I need for a meal. So it's an insulin syringe. You can do 1 unit, but it's hard to measure out 1 unit, and and you certainly can't measure out like 1/10 of a unit. So, and if you can't measure out a very tiny amount and you give yourself more insulin than you actually need, then your blood sugar might go low, or you might need to eat more food to balance out the insulin. So the insulin pump is a huge advantage there in being able to eat what you want to eat, small quantities. If you want to eat small quantities, small amounts of carbohydrates, the pump can deliver the right amount of insulin, and it can even adjust things automatically a lot of times. Myth number 3, that it's an artificial pancreas. They like to say, oh, an insulin pump is an artificial pancreas. Well, this is really not true at all. It's a tool to deliver insulin. Insulin is only one of the hormones that the pancreas produces. Insulin lowers blood sugar. Insulin pump connects with a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, but it still needs active user involvement. So there's some key activities. If you use an insulin pump, you have to tell the pump when you're going to eat. With most insulin pumps, how this works is that you put in the amount of carbohydrates into this bolus calculator or bolus wizard. And for this example, I'm putting in 25 grams of carbohydrates. And actually, this pump thinks that it needs to adjust down the amount of insulin I need, and it's making an adjustment to figure out what the right amount of insulin is for those 25 grams of carbohydrates. So counting carbs is a very big part of most insulin pump user management that you have to tell it you are eating. Also, you have to tell the pump that when you're going to exercise, and it works out best if you tell the pump an hour or two before you exercise that you're going to exercise, to put it in this exercise mode. This pump, it's called temp target mode. It's because you need less insulin when you exercise, and if you don't reduce the insulin, or you don't have the pump reduce the insulin, you're more likely to go low during exercise. So I tell it ahead of time I'm going to exercise. So it takes some planning to get food and exercise right. It's definitely not an artificial pancreas. There's a lot of, you have to learn how to do it and how to drive the insulin pump yourself. Also, the insulin pump depends on a CGM, which is the sensor. The sensor is a small filament that goes just slightly under your skin, and it communicates wirelessly to the pump to tell the pump what your current sensor glucose value is. But this sensor is something that you have to replace about every 7 days. And when you replace the sensor, there's a 2-hour warm-up period. And this is what it's showing. There's a sensor warm-up period. In this case, there's 15 minutes left before the sensor will start working. So it requires weekly maintenance. And the 2-hour time period is a bit of an inconvenience, but it's how the whole system works. Also, the sensor is not always 100% accurate. You are encouraged to do a blood glucose test and calibrate it. So here in this picture, the insulin pump says my blood sugar is 94, but the blood glucose meter on the right there, I did a finger prick and I tested my blood, and it says my blood sugar is really 130, which is significantly higher than what the sensor says. So what I'm going to do is enter the 130 value into the insulin pump, and then the insulin pump will calibrate it, and then the accuracy of the sensor will get better. So don't need to calibrate all the time. In fact, this insulin pump is better than the previous model, and it lets you calibrate or not calibrate. But if you calibrate every once in a while, then it's more accurate. And so that is something to stay on top of. And also, as I mentioned, the insulin lowers blood sugar. A pancreas, the organ your body, the pancreas, which is in your body behind the stomach, it produces other hormones like glucagon that can actually raise blood sugar. But the insulin pump only has one hormone, which is insulin, that lowers blood sugar. So if you get too much insulin, you need to take care of that yourself by giving yourself something sugary, something with sugar in it to eat, like glucose tablets, glucose gummies, a juice box, a soda, something that has sugar in it, and that will raise up the blood sugar. So getting the right dosage of insulin all the time is extremely tricky. And I don't get low blood sugar very often, but as you see, it can happen. And so it's definitely not an artificial pancreas. You have to monitor your blood sugar, and you have to have something sweet on you. And I always carry glucose gummies on me so that I can raise my blood sugar. And it doesn't take very much to raise blood sugar usually, just a little bit. But the insulin only goes down. So commonly, if somebody is having have diabetes and they're having a problem, a lot of times it's low blood sugar, and they actually need something with sugar to counteract the insulin and to raise their blood sugar. So those are the myths. It's definitely not an artificial pancreas at all. I've written a lot about insulin pumps. Check out my website, insulinpumplife.com. You can scan the QR code. Subscribe to my YouTube channel here. I have some other videos that go into a lot more detail about the insulin pump I use, and also a free ebook about what they don't tell you about insulin pumps, but I will. So please check it out, and I'm happy to answer questions and share my experiences. I think it's really important for people to understand what an insulin pump is. And I certainly had no idea. It was a surprise thing to me that I got diabetes. In my case, an autoimmune condition. Who knows why? A lot of mystery here, but unfortunately, a lot of people are getting diabetes, and it's not always type 2. Sometimes it's type 1. Even in adults, you can get type 1 diabetes in adults, and sometimes it's LATA, which is a latent, slower onset form of type 1. And so if you do get a type of diabetes where you need insulin, Insulin pump, in my opinion, is really the best treatment. It's a lot easier to makes your life a lot easier to manage your diabetes compared to doing insulin injections. So I would love to talk more about it, and yeah, please reach out and check out my site. Thank you.